Hello friends. So until now we have learned how to make pivot tables and pivot charts along with a slicer which helps us even break it down further by say region, city or category and so on. But imagine a chart which helps you toggle between the KPIs of your choice, the key process indicators of your choice. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Especially when you want to add interactivity to your reports or dashboard for your clients. This can be done by using Power Pivot and DAX, that is data analysis expressions. So let's see how this can be set up by adding your data to the data model. So here is my e-commerce data set. I have information on customer, product, product ID, quantity and so on. Now the first thing is we'll create a table out of this by hitting Ctrl T. My table has headers. So okay. Uh, let's name this table as a data table. Now what I'm going to do is to create a pivot table out of this, but I don't want to insert a standard pivot table. What I want is to add it to the data model at the same time. So I'll go to design and summarize with pivot table, but this is with a twist. Now I'm going to place a check mark to add this data to the data model and then click OK. Now I can work with Power Pivot. So if I hit Power Pivot, I can go to measures and add a new measure. So what I need to do first is to create the KPIs that I need, and then I'll deal with the slicer parts. So let's make our first measure. Let's call it as say number of orders. Which is, in this case, all I need to do is to count the rows. So I'm going to go with a function called count rows. So it's going to be count rows. If you see, the function is here below. So the name of our data is data table. So type data table. We need entire table. Select this and close the bracket. You have an option to check the formula. So you can check the formula. There is no error in the formula. Now click on OK. So that's my first KPI. You see, this is my first KPI. Now say I want to see these by region. So what I'll do is I'll drag region inside the rows. So these are the number of order placed under each region. Now let's go ahead and add our second measure, that is second KPI. So this is new measure. So let's now count the products. So which is going to be the distinct count of product which is going to be the same formula, distinct. The formula also is distinct count of what we need. We need it from the data table, the product. Close the bracket, hit OK. If you see, it is here. Now the next one, let's go get the total quantity. All I need here is a sum function. I just need to sum the quantity column. So I'll go to measure, new measure. Let's call this as total quantity. It's going to be the sum of the data table column named quantity. Simple. So here we have all our different KPIs set up. Okay. Now as a next step, I want to create slicer selection out of these KPIs. So what I'm going to do is to set up a separate table with this. Now you can call them different as you want, but say I will call it as, first I'm going to transpose this and set up a separate table. We can call, say I'll call it as drop down. You can name them as per your wish. So this is our title, the header. Let's rename these also, better names, say shorter names. Order count. This will say product count. Next we can leave like quantity sold. Okay. So now we have our list. Let's format this list as an Excel table. So again, Control T. My table has headers. Okay. Let's call this table as the same, drop down. Next, we need to add these to the data table. Okay. It is not yet added to the data table, the data model. So let's go to the Power Pivot. And here we will find an option to add this to data model. So observe below we have our sheet name drop down, which is having the new table. And we also have our original table, which is called data table. So what we want to happen is to create slicer. Okay, we can leave this page now. So here what we want is to create slicer out of these. Okay. Now if you observe, click on this. If you observe, we have, here is a switch to where if I hit, we have the table. Our second table is added to this data model. Drop down. Now what we can do is click on this and right click on this one. We can add a slicer make a slicer out of these. Boom. So we have our slicer here. But when if you observe, when I click on this, nothing really is happening. See, nothing, it is not letting me sort or slice the data because they are not yet connected to anything. As a next step, I'm going to add another measure which gives me a power of slicer selection. So let's go to measures, add a new measure. And this we want not for the main data set, but for the drop down data set. Just let me call this as slicer. Our aim here is to figure out the value that was selected, right? So if I select something, then it should take that value. So the function here is values. It is called values. It needs a table or a column name. Well, I just have one column in that table that's called drop down. So I'm going to choose the data set first, the data set and the column name, which is drop down itself. Click OK. Let's check the formula. It's correct. I'm going to click OK. So now So see here we are getting some error. So let's see what the error is. Go to measure, new measures. Sorry, we'll go to measures. Let's manage the measure. Select this and edit. Check formula, saying okay. What error is it giving? Now it is working well. So if I select this in the pivot table fields FX, now you can see it is giving me a power to toggle between the quantity sold, order, everything. I can use the slicer selection. But the problem is when I hold down control to make it is giving me an error. What it is reading, it tells me that a table of multiple value was supplied where a single value was expected, right? So it can't put multiple values in this cell. So what I need to do is account for this and to make sure that only user selects one value, single value. So for that, what we'll have to do is to go back to the measures, manage measures, and let's edit this one, the latest one, the values formula. And what we are going to do here is add a condition. So we are going to say if only one selection is made, then select only that one. So what we are going to do, the formula here again is has one value and then I need the table. So our table is drop down table, drop down, correct. Put a comma and then close this bracket. Okay, I need to put the bracket here. It's giving me an error. If you see, it's giving me an error. Let's put a bracket. Let's check this formula again. It's showing some error again. Appears to be incomplete. Let's see what is incomplete in here. Drop down. Oh, I chose a column, right? So again, I'm going to put a bracket and drop down. Close this bracket. Values. Drop down. Again, it's giving me an error. Let's see what's wrong here. We have to put a condition. If this happens, has only one value, then only show. Otherwise, it should show nothing. So basically, it will show only one value if one value is selected. Otherwise, it will show blank. So now let's check the formula. Now it has no errors. We're going to hit OK. And now let's see what is happening. Okay. So if I select multi-select, nothing is shown. If you observe it carefully, see here our slicer. Observe this column E. If I select single one, it is letting me select that single one. But if I try to control hold, then multi-select, then it is showing a blank. So that was our motto. Now I'm going to get blank back. I'm going to press and check the formula. So we have already checked that formula. So now the next step is to make sure that I get that switch so that I get a power to toggle between these things. Now I have the drop down, but I should get a power that it is just not giving me the, it is showing a text but it is not giving the value. What I need is, if I select order count, it should give me the number of order. This row should be, sorry, this row, this column should come here under slicer. If I select order count, if I select product count, it should give me the actual counts of the products here. This column should be here. For that I need another measure. So we'll go to Power Pivot, Measures, New Measure. I'm going to add this to data table only. So we'll make a selection here, add it to the data table. Let's call this as KPI. These are our KPIs. So this is our KPI. The measure name is KPI. And here for the formula, since we have 3 different things to account for, I'm going to use a switch function instead of if function. Switch is giving me a power to select between the KPIs. So this switch function needs an expression. So the expression that it's going to look at this one. Switch needs, so it's going to look to see what the slicer measure is. So it will see what slicer is selected. So I'm just going to type in slicer. When we have selected the slicers, we'll select this slicer and then comma. Then we will take our order count under quotes, because that's what we have used. And then we are going to choose our data table. What was the name we had given? It was number of orders, right? Number of orders. It was number of orders. The next one is product count. Just ensure that you type it correctly. Product count. The data table was data table. What we had called them is distinct product. Correct. Then next is our quantity sold. We renamed it as quantity sold. And the column was data table total quantity, I think, right? Total quantity. Number of order distinct total quantity. Okay. So let's check the formula. It doesn't have any error. So here one more thing I'm going to do is format this. So I want it to be a number without a whole number, and we can use 1000 separators. In case we have big data, it's better to use separators. Hit OK. So now if we observe, boom, we have our KPI. So as product count is already selected here, we'll getting the product count. See, this is getting copied here. Now if I make a selection of order count, it's giving me this as KPI. So it is giving me a power to switch between the KPIs now. So this can be represented in a better way, in a visual way, by creating a chart. Basically, now in this pivot table, I don't need anything from here except my KPIs, right? Now these are of no use because I'm getting my KPIs in this column. So what I can do is quickly kick everything out except for the KPIs. So that will help me to create, it's easier for me to create the chart. So we have our KPIs here, and we can say safely ignore this message because we have already created the relationship. Ignore this. Now let's insert a chart. So just click somewhere inside the pivot table, go to insert and insert a column chart. Insert a column chart. Let's choose, say, this one. Just grab this chart and let's put it in a new worksheet. Let's call it as KPI dashboard. And also let's copy our drop down there. Let's optimize the look of this drop down as well as the chart. So I'll go to select the drop down, go to slicer tools option. We can make it like horizontal. And then we don't need the header here. The caption is not needed, it's understood. So we can remove this. Now we don't need the title. Not the legends. So we can enable the data labels. Let's make the font visible. Just trying to optimize the look of this chart and this. And then what we can do is take this, we have to place it here. So let's place it here. Looks beautiful, right? We can even get rid of this border. So now let's see how it is working. Order count is this much and the product count is, it's giving me a power to toggle between the KPIs. So these are our KPIs and we can toggle between them, and it is a very, very useful trick while creating an interactive dashboard wherein you get a power to toggle between the KPIs through your slices. So I can now go back to my pivot tables, and or no need to go back also. Here also you get an option. No, I don't see it here now. Where did it go? Anyways, go back to your pivot tables and then you can add some other categories as well. Say I wanted by say city, or say category. I want the category inside this. So here automatically it is added, and you can select for, say, I just want to study the south region. So I'll select south and study the KPIs, all the KPIs for only south region. Focus only on south region. What was the order? Furniture was this. What was the product count? It was this. Quantity sold was that, and so on. So what I have made a dynamic KPI. So let's wrap up. But if you are completely new to DAX, this probably wasn't that easy to follow. All you need is to pause this video and practice along. I'll give a link to the data set in the bio. Let me know in the comments if you're already using Power Pivot in your reports. It is much easier for the people who are using Power BI. And thank you so much for watching the video. I'm going to see you in the next video soon. Thank you so much.